Hey guys, Morgan's Maintenance back at the project. I didn't bring my microphone today. Also did not bring my GoPro, so I'm remotely not ready to film. But I'm going to be starting some framing in here. I decided I'm going to go ahead and film it more so because I bought my new Atlas vest, or I got it in the mail. It's the Stratos. I'm going to try it out. It's kind of like a mix between a vest and then a belt and suspenders type thing. So it's probably not going to be as hot as a vest. I think I can move a little bit better in it. So I'm going to frame with it. I'm going to set up my phone, kind of off to the side, film framing, and then I'll voice over or I'll try something, see if I can make a video out of this. We'll just see at the end of it after I go to edit it. If you're seeing this, I decided I was going to make a video, and if you're not, well, I filmed this intro for nothing. I'll go ahead and flip you around and kind of walk you around the project real fast before I get started. I'm not going to show you everything, but I'll show you the main things that I've been working on, and then I'll get started on the framing. So out here in the front, I did get that front window, that pocket window demoed on this side over here. This is just gonna get filled in. They don't want a spot where the customers that are out here waiting in the lobby can just see everything going on for confidentiality. So I've got that opened up. That's gonna get, again, framed up, drywalled in, patched in. It's gonna be a pretty decent sized patch. The other rooms, I've got trash like all over the place like this right here because they've got a guy who comes on the weekends and is hauling it off on a trailer because the owner didn't want to put a dumpster out here, because apparently this town is a lot worse with people going through dumpsters and just throwing stuff out the side, and you got to pick it out of the parking lot all the time. So in here, I've got all the drywall cut out that was really severely damaged because of those cabinets. I cut it out basically to fit a whole sheet in there. That way I'm just sticking a whole sheet in there. I don't have to do a bunch of measuring and fitting. I did get the entire little bathroom tore out. I went ahead and tore up the subfloor because it was in pretty bad shape as well. I'll have to get that patched in. I've got the drywall, down everywhere, all the electricity out of it. Other than that plug right there, I did get the dryer plug pulled out. I'm going to move that down and then start using that for the plugs in this office whenever it comes time to do that. But in a nutshell, that's mostly what all I've been getting done, and a lot of electricity up in the attic, just doing different things. Here on this side, I'm going to start framing. So I went to Lowe's this morning, picked up as many 2x4s as I could fit in my truck. I should be pretty close on this out here. I'm going to need some more for some other areas. I had to end up backing up to this window and bringing them in. I've already went ahead and got everything laid out. I've already got this 2x4 started. Maybe you can see my black lines on the floor. I doubt it, but right there's one right there. I've got all the floor joists marked, so I'm going to put down the bottom plate. I've got my top plate marked out with some little lines every so often, and again I got my little entryway blocked out too. The only thing I'm not going to frame right now, I'm probably going to stop at the end of this door and leave this open because I really need to put this drywall in before I frame up against that, and that's 5/8 drywall, and I'm waiting to get drywall so that I can get a delivery and have them bring all of it at one time. But I wanted to get this framing done because then I can go ahead and get the electricity running here, get the lights cut in the ceiling, those kinds of things, get that all in place. That way when the drywall gets delivered, I'm good to go. But let's go ahead and jump into some framing. So I'm going to start out showing you my Stratos vest from Atlas 46, just letting you see it up close. Because the rest of the footage is going to be from a little bit farther away. And now I'm just going to start by filling in my bottom plates. Again, I've already got everything marked out on the floor, squared off, all those kinds of things. It's just a matter of cutting stuff to fit and sticking it on my lines. And had I had my, GoPro or my bag with my microphone and all that stuff, I could have spent more time maybe going around showing you how I use my 3-plane laser to get everything squared off and plumb for my top plates and all those kinds of things. But I didn't have that, so you just get to watch me work. I did find where the floor joists were. I've got marks on the floor where those are too, so that way my screws should be going into floor joists instead of sticking through the subfloor down in the basement. I'm only using my M12 circular saw. And again, this is perfect job for it in my opinion. So much lighter, all those things, cuts through 2x4s very easily. I just really love it. For this kind of job right here, you can't hardly beat it. Again, I'm not going to set up a miter saw station and all that kind of stuff just for this many studs. It's not that much framing. I was going to speed this all up one more time, but I felt like then it was too fast, so I kind of just tried to cut out some stuff here and there, like the me getting up and down and, you know, those kinds of things over and over. And some of you are going to fuss at me. I'm not wearing knee pads, but I don't like to wear knee pads when I'm not spending all my time on the floor and I'm getting up and down off the ladder. Like if I'm doing work where I'm not going to get up and down the ladder and I'm getting up and down on the floor, I'll wear knee pads, but I don't like wearing knee pads and climbing a ladder. I feel like it makes me a little bit unsafe sometimes. And this floor is not too awful bad on my knees. Now that I've got all the bottom plates in, I'm putting a screw in the middle of this one. And again, I've got everything marked off up above. I think I've got it out of the frame though. But I put that screw, I get it started because I'm going to be holding this 2x4 in one hand and then getting my impact. I'm using the Metabo triple hammer on this job. I wanted to be able to just put that screw right in, so I measured to figure out where that ceiling joist was, put the screw in the 2x4, and now that I've got that in place in the middle, I can pivot that 2x4 to get it lined up with my line. And now I'm just going back and again screwing it into the ceiling joist. You'll see that I've also got my Hultaforce pencil in my mouth for the majority of this. Again, this is the very first time that I've wore this vest, and I'm used to having my pencil up close to my chest, and there's really no good place to put it on this particular vest, so I'm going to have to figure out something with that. And because of that, I went back to the old habit of pencil in the mouth, which I like the Hultaforce better for that than the Pika 3030. The Pika 3030, all your spit goes through the pencil. The Hultaforce doesn't do that. On these, I always try to cut them a little bit tight, and I go get a hammer here in a second and kind of beat it into place because I'm wanting a friction fit, and then it holds it up there on the ceiling by itself and doesn't rely on me sitting there trying to hold it and then getting the screws in. Again, the camera was just a hair too close to where you can't see this. Measuring to make sure I hit the floor joist or the ceiling joist. Now I'm doing layout, getting all my layout done as far as my rough opening for my doors. And then I'm also going to put in my corners as far as to have nailers for drywall. And usually what I do is right now I'm trying to work off of one of those corners and seeing how my 16s come out and see if I can use one of those as my 16s. And in this instance, it ended up working out perfectly. So I'm going to use one of those, even though I mess up here in a little bit in picking which one that is. And again, I just roll out my tape. I go down, I mark 16s, and I go back with my little trim square, mark one side. Sometimes I mark both sides, but this time I only marked one. Here I'm setting up my laser on the corner out there so that I can get myself a plumb point up at the top, and then that way I know exactly where I need to measure to get to that plumb point. And again, now it's just going to be the same process as the bottom plate. I'm just doing it on the ceiling. I've already using my laser. I've made marks. To get everything plumb, you're going to see I never really use a level. I think I do check one stud with a level, but you don't have to. I mean, if you use a laser, I will double check with the level every now and then just to make sure something didn't get off. Same thing on this, getting the screw started, putting it up there. I put my screws in the middle and on my line, and then that way I can now move the sides whichever way I need to get it onto my line. I also framed in that door opening over there on the right. I finished framing that out and got the header put up in there. It's not really a load bearing wall, but I went ahead and put a 2x10 header up in there because it came out exactly to my door height, and I just as soon put it up in there. I already had the drywall cut out anyway, so thinking that I was going to need it, even though I really didn't need it. Again, just measuring off where my ceiling joists are to make sure I hit those instead of just trying to screw straight into drywall. All right, guys, that's pretty much the hardest parts done for me, at least working by myself. It's not hard, you know, to do it. It's just harder to do working by yourself. I was able to locate all the ceiling joists and the floor joists so that way I could screw it up there. It would hold it in place until I went back and did the rest of those. And you might be asking, well, why did you not just build walls and stand them up? This floor is not flat. You know, it's got some waves to it. So if you ever build a wall on a floor like that and stand it up, whichever way that floor goes, if you've already got all your studs in, they're all going to go that way too. They're not going to end up being plumb. So in remodel situations, especially when it's not really a whole lot of framing like this, I just cut every stud to fit. It's just a lot easier for me working by myself, and I get the result, you know, that I'm looking for. Let me go ahead and flip you around. So I've already got my layout marked down here. Gonna put in, what I normally do is I will put in one stud, I will get that plumbed up, and then that way I can just start pulling my tape. I'll use a laser. I'll shoot a laser line from down here up to the top plate. Once I get that stud in place, I can then hook onto that stud and start pulling it and marking off the top as I go, and then all those will be plumb as well. You don't have to sit there and check it all the time. So that's what I'm gonna end up doing. Let me zoom out here. So again, wall going straight here, doorway here. I ended up changing to 32-inch doors. I was gonna put in 36, but I wanted to give as much room here as possible, and all their other doors are 30 inches, so they're still gonna be bigger than those. I was trying to give them more room to get furniture and stuff in a little easier, but if I did a 36-inch door, unless I robbed some room, I was not gonna have room for a switch in there, and I wanted to make sure I had that. Now, I could have put the switch out here on this wall on the outside of the door, but I don't like doing that. I don't like the option of somebody turning off a light for an office from the outside of the door. So changed over to 32-inch doors. I think they're gonna like that better in order to have more room in here. And then here's gonna be another door as well, swinging this way. They'll walk in through this way. That will be the office. So we'll go ahead and get right back into framing. I also did just notice as I was turning around here filming, I was like, what in the world is this thing right here hanging from the ceiling? And I've got a bat in here with me, so that's what that is. So hopefully I don't end up disturbing him. I don't even know how to get him out of here because I don't want to turn into a vampire or whatever happens if you get bit by a bat. I'm hoping that he doesn't wake up in the middle of me framing this. I can't believe he hadn't went crazy so far. This is like the brightest room in the whole entire thing too. I don't know why he's hanging out in here, but let me go ahead and get you put back up. We'll get back to framing. So now I've got my laser down there and I'll plumb up to my first stud. Again, that way I can make sure that my first stud is plumb, and then I can pull off of that to get my top layout. Because if I just laid this out and put the studs wherever the same on the board, this floor or the ceiling, one or the other, goes up and down like over about an inch from one side to the other. It would have been a big mess. So again, I'm just putting this one up. I thought that this was the side of the corner that I was going to take my 16s off of. But you're going to see here in a minute I messed that up. Here I'm doing layout now off of that stud. But as I go to get that measurement, whenever I'm going straight up, like to get to my layout mark, it would be really out of plumb, real bad, like obvious. So I knew something was wrong. I messed up. This one here was my 16, not this one. I noticed that it didn't look right whenever I was doing that. So I'm gonna go ahead and level up off this one, and then I can come off of it. So basically I'm gonna do the same exact thing. We're gonna plumb off this one instead. I knew when I was measuring up from that one, like for it to be here, it just didn't seem right. I didn't know what was going on, but. Trying to make sure I get that one exactly where I want it, because again, I'm going to pull everything off of this stud right here, so it's pretty important. Checking that it's level even, because again, this is going to be my key stud for layout, so I want to make sure it's right, and then now I can just pretty much go down, mark 16s, make my marks, line up my bottom marks that I've got on layout with this one, and they should all be 100% plumb. I'm going ahead and measuring a couple while I'm on the ladder, just trying to save myself trips up and down the ladder. I'm writing them on the side of the stud. I can see that from down on the ground, and then I'll go ahead and cut a couple, put them in. I try not to get real far ahead if my wall or if my floor and ceiling are out as much as this, because sometimes when you knock a stud in, it raises your top plate, raises that ceiling a little bit, and then your third stud that you cut might be a little bit too short. Screw in all the top of those, then go back, screw in the bottoms. Same thing, hook onto that stud, do layout as far as I can reach. And then you're pretty much just repeating the process over and over. So I'll throw it into some time lapse here. All right, guys, I got the walls framed up. This is the wall that will divide the two offices left and right. Again, this door is going to get closed out. It won't be here any longer, so the entrance is now going to be off that hallway. And I got 32-inch doors going to go right here. I left all this framing out, particularly just so I can put this drywall in. It's going to be 5/8 drywall. It can be whole sheets. I can put that in there and then frame the rest of my stuff up against it. I've got blocking here in the middle to kind of attach my wall, so that's going to be plenty for the strength on it. I left myself a 5/8 drywall gap. I took a piece of drywall and stuck it in there on my bottom plate. That way I can just slide it right in there. Same thing on the other side. But what this is going to allow me to do, all my electrical in this is from this point back. You know, I can run my switches, run the lights, run the receptacles that are going to be in that wall right there, probably put one out here as well. So that's going to allow me to move on with that while we're still working on some other stuff. Again, then I can move over and start framing this 2x6 wall right here for a door opening, getting rid of that attic access. That's the key. That's why I'm wanting to get over here on these lights, get the switches in, so I can pull that out and start framing this up. I'm probably going to go ahead and frame it up and take that out and then I'll still be able to get up and down right there, but that's what I'm gonna probably be doing next. And again, then we'll just keep moving on down the line as much as I can do before my own town calls me back to work and they've got to find some other people to do some things. So again, here's what we just basically did. We look right here. This is that door opening. These are going to be my 2 doors that I will eventually be putting in. And then there's that wall right there. Divides up the space pretty well. I think they'll have plenty of room. Whenever they open this door, you know, you're going to be basically stepping into your office and not have to remove this closet because it's got a return in it and all kinds of stuff like that. So I think that's going to work out fine. But again, I didn't have my MB3 basically, so I didn't have my GoPro, didn't have my microphones, didn't even have my other iPhone. Sometimes I set up my old iPhone for the time-lapse stuff, and then I film, you know, I can, in between, if I've got something I want to say, go to that and show it to you. I don't even have that with me. So I decided to go ahead and film because this was a pretty important part of the process. It's the big thing, you know, to really happen as far as framing and stuff like that. So I didn't want to not film it. Also on my new Atlas, the Stratos, and I can't even get it in the picture, but hopefully you saw it, you know, during the work video part of it or whatever it might be. I really like this thing. I mean, it's definitely easier to move around in than the Saratoga vest. The only thing that I'm kind of missing is I've got to carry my pencil. Let's see if I can get in the picture. Kind of down here on my holstery Joey pouch. I really prefer my pencils. I kept looking for it and putting it back. It seemed like I was wasting a lot of movement. I'm so used to being able to have my pencils right up here, right next to me. So again, this is the very first time I use this vest, so there was a little bit of learning curve on it, but overall, I'm really impressed with this one. I like it much better than my Saratoga. It's a little bit, I think, not as hot, even though to me the Saratoga is not hot, but I can definitely move easier for sure. This is more like a belt and suspenders, but it's like a suspender slash vest type thing. So I'll probably do a review on it at some time, but just to give you an idea, so I've got some footage of me using it. You were able to see that as well, but let me know what you think about this in the comments below. If you got any questions, drop them as well. Hope it was interesting. As always, stay safe. Have a blessed day. See you on the next video.